Okay, future millionaire. I am convinced that consistency in content and hitting all of the right marks with content is one of those things that can help you become a millionaire in today's basically online world where there's so much opportunity. I believe 2020 was a moment with a lot of opportunity, the years following as well. I think 2022, 2023, a lot of people got a little bit distracted or were a bit sad that growth wasn't as fast anymore. But I think today is another surging moment, just like in 2020. Right now, in 2024, there is so much opportunity because of AI and because people are, on the one hand, you can use AI to automate things, to write copy, to do a lot of things without it costing you a lot. And on the other hand, because so many people are using AI, it's really easy to stand out if you can actually bring some authenticity and personality. Long story short, maybe you've already seen it, but this is part of my new Self-Made Millionaire content series. And in today's episode, I'm going to talk you through how I batch my social content and my podcasts and my newsletters all in one day a week. And this is a really easy episode for me. I did not write a lot down because obviously I'm doing it as we speak. Okay, let's dive in. I'm going to reveal all of my content secrets to you. Hello, and welcome to Fail to Win, a show where we love to make mistakes and learn from them so you can turn your passion into profits and live life on your own terms. I'm Amy van der Putten from FastForwardAmy, your host and coach, and I'll bring you a new episode with simple strategies every Tuesday. You know what is actually mind-blowing is that I was gone for 2 weeks and I barely created any content in the moment. I had all of my content planned out. My newsletters were planned in. Even now, upon my return, tomorrow is Tuesday, so all of my newsletters are going out, my podcast, everything was just planned in. And I've been batching for years, but a couple of months ago, I was flying back from LA and I decided, I was in this space and time, I was a couple of months before that, actually. So basically half a year ago, I felt a bit sick of my own content. I've talked about this in previous episodes. Maybe you've seen me talk about it or not, but I was feeling like everything was the same. I had outsourced a lot of my content and I wasn't proud of my own content anymore. I didn't enjoy reading my own copy. I thought my videos were stupid. I just didn't enjoy any of it and it didn't resonate with me anymore. And I think I outsourced a bit too much and let my tone of voice kind of just die. So I took on an experiment with myself. I started a new account. I did it in my native tongue, which is in Dutch. And I decided to see where that would take me if I could refine my own tone of voice. And alongside a couple of switches in my team, I just decided, okay, I'm going to take back the copy and I'm going to not batch and I'm just gonna, feel into what I want to create. So I did that. It felt really great. And then a couple of months later, as I was in LA, I was really creating in the moment. And then I was like, I have refound my tone of voice and now I want to get rid of the stress again because now this is stressing me out that I'm doing everything in the moment. So I was faced with this challenge, like how can I keep the energy and the inspiration and the meanness in the me-ness in all of this content, but at the same time, give myself the grace and the time to work ahead so I'm not always running behind. So on the plane back to Belgium, I sat down, everyone was sleeping, the plane was dark, and I told myself, okay, this is when it's happening. And I wrote down this whole plan. I've shared it with my clients, my online business club. I created a plan that would allow me to harness my own creativity, keep on doing some things myself, and yet batch ahead. And now we're here a couple of months later. It's incredible. The past 2 weeks, I was not in the country. I barely opened my laptop except for some conversations with my one-on-one clients because I review some of their stuff every week. These are clients who are part of my millionaire mastermind, so high-ticket clients. And other than that, I didn't do a whole lot. I just got another person in who... So this is what I was actually wanted to tell you when it took me 4 minutes to get to this point, but I wasn't home I wasn't actively creating, yet I got a bunch of high ticket clients in and requests from people to work with me and sales, and things were just running because I had batched my content ahead and because my content is vibing and it's working. So that's just what I want to tell you, is that I know online business might seem like you need to be online all the time, but if I look at my podcast stats from the past couple of weeks, without me live promoting it, my sales, everything, it's now the middle of the month, we are already turning a profit this month, stuff like that. Basically, what I want to tell you is that you don't have to always be online in order to run an online business. You don't have to have a really big ass team in order to batch all of your content. For being honest, I have one marketing person on my team and then some people who assist me freelance, but I do a lot of my content myself. So in today's episode, I'm going to basically walk you through the reasoning I used for my content, how I started batching it even more than I did, let's say, a year ago, and how I'm doing it with high energy. And I actually can't wait to walk you through this. So bear in mind, I do all of the creation myself. I do outsource some of the implementation, but I didn't. When I flew back from LA a couple of months ago, I didn't. I was like, I'm going to do all of it myself to see how much work it actually is. And then only when I really have it down pat am I going to give it to someone else who can then do it. So yes, welcome. It's actually incredible that you are getting all of this for free. I say that with a smile, but honestly, the content in this series, plus the free tutorial I made for you on how you can do all of this with ChatGPT, I'll give that to you later, is so valuable that I was literally thinking like, am I gonna share this for free? But then I always tell my clients, basically what you give away for free should be so good people should want to pay for it. So here we are. So basically, what I do is every Tuesday, I have 2 newsletters that go out, one in English, one in Dutch, to my email segments. I have an English podcast on the Fail to Win podcast, which is this one, going out every Tuesday morning. I have on my other podcast, which is not the focus of this episode, I also have daily podcasts going out, but that's in combination with my team. That's a team effort. So I'm not going to talk about that because I want you to get a feeling of what you can do realistically in one day a week without a team. And then I create a bunch of promotional posts for my podcasts. So as I said, I do most of this myself. I've been doing it myself, and now I've been outsourcing a bit of the implementation. So what I mean by that is, for example, I'll write the English newsletter, but someone else will implement it. I will write the quote that I'll post on my Instagram, but someone else will put it in Canva and plan it in, stuff like that. And I use AI for a really big chunk of all of this, but I'm going to walk you through how I do that. So I know my goal for my content. That's, if you missed last week's episode, the first part of the Millionaire Content series, definitely go and check that out. But as I know my goal, which is to grow my account and also to nurture my audience all the time, basically that enables me to do the right thing. So I know when I'm selling actively, there will be a launch. That's a whole different plan. What I want to talk to you about today is the baseline of content. I make sure that even when I'm not launching, even when I'm not actively there is a really steady base of content so that when I am there or when I do want to sell something, let's say I want to do a birthday sale, and I haven't been online for 2 months, people are going to be like, who the fuck are you? Why would I buy from you? Versus if people have been, absorbing a weekly podcast episode from me, they have been getting a weekly email from me, they see me showing up on the regular. By the time I then sell them something, the trust is going to be much higher because I have been showing up consistently. Now, I'm inherently a little bit of a procrastinator, a perfectionist, and I'm also a visionary. So this is basically a recipe for disaster. If you're anything like me, you get a lot of big ideas, but you struggle with execution. And maybe you're also a little bit of a perfectionist, so then you tend to procrastinate. I have all of this. So imagine that when I wanted to start my podcast, I actually postponed it twice because I was afraid it wasn't going to be good enough. I was afraid no one would listen to it. That was in 2019. I had headshots made. I'd bought a really expensive microphone, still using it right now, by the way. And I had all of it ready except for the actual episodes. And then I postponed launching my podcast twice because I was terrified. What if no one would listen? Or even worse, what if people would listen and they would hate it? It took me a lot to get over myself. The main reason I got over myself is because I realized, well, no one is listening now because I don't have a podcast. And also I was really looking for a creative outlet. I had a lot of clients at the time. My business was doing well, but I felt like everything I was doing was strategic. And I just wanted something where I could talk and where I could be creative. And I felt like podcasting was going to be that. And today that sounds really obvious, but back in the day, in 2020, which in online business world is like the Middle Ages, not a lot of people were podcasting, actually. I was really early with it. I remember my mom asking me, how long are you going to do that for? Because a lot of people were like, my boyfriend at the time was also like, it's free. Why are you going to do that for free? But I don't know. I knew it was going to be something. So I started creating that podcast, and it was a lot of work. Writing the newsletter, I remember a lot of mornings were early morning, 7 a.m. on a Tuesday. I was writing the newsletter. I had chosen Tuesday as the day to publish my weekly podcast because I thought if I'm going to procrastinate, then at least I can do all of it on a Monday and I won't have to work the weekends. So I didn't start out trusting myself. Then over the years, I got better at it. I got a team. We started batching all of it. But as I said, beginning of 2024, I started doing everything myself again because I felt like it was a bit off. And what I've realized over the years is that it's really important that you have a content flip. And what I mean by that is a lot of people put a lot of time into creating new content. They create a new podcast. They create a new lead magnet. They create a new course, but they don't put enough time into actually promoting it. And this is what I call the 80-20 content flip. When you are creating a podcast episode, what you should think about it is for every one core piece of content you create, you should actually create at least 5 pieces of content to then promote that. So that means if I create a podcast, I shouldn't create more podcasts. I should create more content to promote that podcast. So that means from one podcast, I make sure I create a newsletter. I create a reel. I create a blog post. I create a carousel. I create a quote. I create a story. So I create at least 5 pieces of content to promote the one piece of core content. Same goes with lead magnets. People spend so much time on their freebies and then they forget to actually promote their freebies. So I want to walk you through how I'm doing it right now after a couple of years of experience because I wish someone would have told me sooner. I realized that working week by week again was a little bit too tight for me. I was like, well, I do want to be able to be sick on a Monday. I don't want to have to, record a podcast on a Monday to publish it the Tuesday. Because when you're working so last minute, what also happens is you don't get around to the promotion because you're just working on the creation. So I said, okay. Me on a plane flying home from LA, I was like, okay, in my ideal world, by the end of the month, the following month would be fully planned in as a minimum. Kind of like a magazine, the magazine needs to be ready for print and then it gets sold a month long. I once saw the Bold Type, and ever since I saw that show, I don't know if it was on Netflix or someone else, but it's about a magazine and a bunch of girls working at a magazine. And I always remember the magazine editor or chief, I don't know what her name was, but or what the title is, but her name was Jacqueline Carlisle. And she would always make sure that everything was ready on time for print. So I look at my business and my content as a magazine. And I basically look at it right now as like, okay, I'll decide a topic or like a theme for a month. So for example, for October, I've chosen content, as you might be able to tell. I do the same for my coachings, and I work in a monthly and quarterly rhythm for myself. So I decide a theme, and then I look at how many Tuesdays are there in a month. For October, I saw that I needed 5 episodes instead of 4. And then I follow this structure. So I'll outline all of the episodes for that month. This took me an hour today, and then I'll start recording all of the episodes. Once I have all of the episodes, I turn all of the episodes into, so I do it in audio only, because if I have to get ready and do my hair and makeup, I know the videos will be really good, but currently I do all of this by myself. And if I have to be camera ready, that's a different type of ready and a different type of focus I need. I might change this in the future, but right now I'm just doing audio only. It saves me a ton of time. I'll take the audio files, turn them into a transcript, and then from that transcript, I will create all of my deliverables. And by deliverables, I mean pieces of content I need. The deliverable for me would be the Instagram caption to promote the episode, the carousel that I'm posting every Thursday to promote my episodes, the announcement post, the reel about the fact that the podcast is coming up, the newsletter, all of that. And I always do the same thing. So this is where a lot of people fuck up in their batching is they're like, oh yes, I'm going to batch. And then they don't do it. And then every week they might be creating something because most people are just inconsistent. And then you think, okay, so what type of video am I going to make? How am I going to promote this podcast? But I've really just decided how I promote it. I know that I have a reel on Monday. I have a static post on Tuesday. I have a carousel on Thursday. I have a quote on Friday, and so on and so on, and a newsletter on Tuesday, for example. So because it's fixed, and I know it's a quote, it's a carousel, it's an announcement post, it's a newsletter, I don't actually have to reinvent the wheel. I look at it kind of like cooking. When you're making breakfast, you usually have a couple of types of breakfast you like. I like making omelets, or I like yogurt with fruit. But if I wouldn't know what time it is or what meal I'm making, and someone would ask me, hey, could you cook something? I'd be like, what do you want me to cook? Like breakfast or dinner or lunch? Because, I usually make salads for lunch. I make something hot for dinner. I make an omelet for breakfast. But if they would tell me, could you make me some breakfast that's high protein? I'd be like, yeah, sure. 3 eggs. Okay, let's go. So I kind of do that with my content. I know which meal I'm making. Each piece of content for me has a recipe. For example, my announcement post will just be a static post, and this performs terribly, by the way. But I have this process now. I'm like, whatever, I'll improve it as I go along. It's just a static post, same visual, just the title and the number of the episode gets changed, and then of course the caption, but it's consistent. I would rather post something that isn't performing amazingly consistently and then improve it, as opposed to having this really great idea for a piece of content that I then don't make. So I basically have these standard recipes for my pieces of content. On Thursdays, I make a carousel. So then how do I make sure that I'm batching all of my social content and podcasts? Contrary to popular belief, batching doesn't mean working on one project at the same time. Because a lot of people do this with their courses, for example. They say, oh, I'm going to record a course. And then in one day, they'll be like, oh, chapter 1. And they'll outline chapter, and then they'll make the slides for that chapter, and then they'll record, and then they'll edit. But that actually takes you a lot of time because you are task switching. You're going from outlining to slides to recording to editing, which are all different parts of your brain that you're using, which is the same for me. Outlining the podcast, recording the podcast, editing it. I don't do it that way. The secret trick is that I batch my social content and my podcast in 1 day a week because I'm doing different things every week. So for example, the first Monday of the month, I might be outlining all of my podcasts and recording all of the podcasts. And then the second Monday, I might be creating all of my reels and videos about those podcasts. And then maybe the third Monday of the month, I'm creating all of the copy for all of my content. And then maybe the last Monday of the month, it could be that I'm implementing everything. In reality, I'm not doing the implementation anymore. As I told you, I have a team of freelancers, VAs, who do that for me, but I did do it for a couple of months just now. And the reason I started changing this again is because I felt myself falling into this last minute trap. And I started realizing like, oh, you waste so much time because recording 1 episode versus 2 episodes doesn't cost you all that much more time. You're in the zone, you're getting creative. You could actually record 2, 3, or maybe even 4 podcasts. But if you're constantly switching from task till task, then sometimes it will take me a full day to create an entire episode and everything that goes with it. But then I'm never working ahead versus if I do it this way, then I'm seriously batching and I can actually work ahead much more easily because I can get a lot more done because I'm getting what they call economies of scale. Because recording 1 more episode, for example, after this one doesn't cost me all that much more time. So this is what you want to do. You want to stop thinking in terms of days or weeks and start thinking in terms of months if you want to get out of this last minute wheel. And then, for example, on one day, you create all of the podcasts. And then on another day, the week later, you create all of your short form social videos. And then you create all of your copy in your newsletters. And then you start implementing everything. And then everything is planned in for a full month. And then that entire month, you can start it all over again. And it might feel like, yeah, but isn't that the same then? But it's going to be without the stress. Because you know how nice it is to be traveling and to not think about, shit, my newsletter, or okay, then there's no newsletter or no podcast. We want to create consistency. If you would have a supermarket, if that would be your business, you would also not just close it all the time when you're not feeling like it or when you're feeling a bit tired. No, you would make sure that there's, I don't know, always apples for sale. You want to make sure that you always are offering apples. So this is how I do it, but obviously I can see you wondering, but how then? Because that's still a lot of work for just one person. And luckily, a few months ago, as I was doing all of this, I also discovered how I could use ChatGPT as my content buddy. Now, ChatGPT is not as good as a sales copywriter or a conversion copywriter, but it is really good at getting my tone of voice out of my episodes and actually helping me to create the baseline content that I'm putting out every single week. And it's really crazy, but I've decided to give you a step-by-step tutorial worth millions for free of exactly how I record and edit my podcast and then use a transcript to create 8 deliverables that then get implemented onto my socials and my newsletter. And I'm gifting it to you. So if you want to go and grab that, and if you got anything out of this episode and you're like, yes, okay, I want to see how it's done, because I want to get out of this stress mode, just simply DM me the word buddy, because it's my content buddy tutorial, because that's how I use ChatGPT as my content buddy. So if you DM me the word buddy on FastForwardAmy, or you just go to fastforwardamy.com/content buddy, I'll link it in the description, you can go ahead and access the tutorial I've made for you. Okay, so remember, promote for every core piece of content, make sure you promote it 5 to 10 times. This is the 80-20 rule reversed. So you don't want to spend 80% of your time on new content, 20% on promoting it. You want to do it the other way around. And make sure you're batching the right way. Not just one project or one episode, but you want to batch the same task types. That's what's going to actually get you ahead and enable you to start working ahead. And for me, for example, I know that in November I have a bit more time. So in November, I'm going to challenge myself to not just work 1 month ahead, but to get in an extra month. So that from that point onwards, I'm working ahead 2 months, which gives me so much peace of mind, which then gives me more space for creativity, which is going to increase the quality of everything I'm doing. So that's kind of how this works. If you're working under stress, your creativity will die. If you are working from abundance and space, you're going to see that your creativity is going to be much higher. Okay, good luck. And if you like this episode, make sure you follow my podcast, because next week I have a new episode of this series for you. And let me check what the episode is about. Yes, next week we're going to look at why you are not attracting new clients on your socials. That's a good one. Bye. You want to make money on Instagram, but you're not exactly sure what you actually need in order to make that happen. Chances are you're creating content and you're trying different things, but it seems to not really click together, and you're wondering why those other people are getting in all of those sales, but you aren't. Well, in reality, even if you're only selling for 30 euros every day, that's an extra 1,000 a month if you can make it work. But so many people actually can't, because they don't see the full picture and they are missing one key element. That's why I've made the Instagram income map for my clients, which is a PDF workbook that you can go through in 1 hour. You'll discover the 8 building blocks that determine whether you just attract clients on Instagram or just talk about sales, or that you can actually go from attracting clients to getting in sales every single day. And I want that for you. So you can go and grab the workbook now, available for only 27 euros for a limited time. Go to fastforwardamy.com/income map and I'll send it over to you instantly, or click the link in the description of this episode.